Welcome. I'm Susan Noyes, the founder and chief visionary officer of Make It Better Media Group, which includes Better, Marin Magazine, Spaces, and the Make It Better Foundation. And I am delighted to welcome you to this fireside chat with William Blair's Laura Linger and Celena Roldan, the CEO of the Red Cross of Illinois. There will be, at any time, please send questions or comments you have through the chat, but also know that there will be a copy of this video sent out afterwards and an article summarizing top line advice that you hear and posted to Better and sent out in our Better letters and across our social network platforms. So if you don't already do so, please subscribe to our Better letter, follow us online, and be watching for this great advice that we're about to get. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Laura Linger, who spent her entire career in management and client-facing roles with high net wealth individuals and their families. But she didn't launch her own group advising them at William Blair until only 3 years ago. And what spectacular success she has quickly enjoyed. Laura is already managing an almost $1 billion portfolio and has earned all of the top recommendations. She's a Forbes America Top Wealth Advisor for 2021 and 2022, a Barron's Top State by State Advisor in America 2022, and a Forbes Best in State Advisor in 2022. One of the secrets to Laura's success is that she believes in the power of women and philanthropy. Laura's many community activities include board service or founding roles for the Chicago Botanic Garden, Prentice Hospital, Boys and Girls Clubs, the Senior Businesswomen's Forum, Calvin College, Women's Leadership and Mentoring Alliance, and the Chicago Finance Exchange. But Laura is particularly passionate about the American Red Cross. And that's why she invited Celena Roldan, CEO of the Red Cross of Illinois, to join us for this fireside chat. And Celena is a very powerful positive connector in her own right, too. Celena's region is the second largest in the United States, but by all reports, it is viewed as the most successful and innovative in the country. Celena has been named a most powerful Latina by Crain's and Better, and received the United Way's Community Leader of the Year. And I'm very proud to say that I serve on her board and as a member of the Tiffany Circle too. So with no further ado, I'm delighted to have Laura share her best knowledge with us right now.
Susan, thank you so much. And thank you, Celena, for joining us today. This is so exciting. We've titled our discussion today, The Power of Women in Philanthropy. And boy, do women have power in philanthropy at this point in time. It is absolutely a new world of philanthropy, and women are absolutely at the forefront. Women are motivated by impact, and their impact is exponentially increasing for several reasons. A lot of those reasons are things we don't always talk about, but they are money and power. And let's explore the economic impact that women are having in today's economy. First of all, women are the next wave of U.S. wealth. Today, 43% of our nation's wealth is actually controlled by women. And inheritance is an increasingly important part of this, as we see a large inheritance in the next number of years, about $41 trillion, and women are going to control 70% of that. Inherently, they live longer than spouses. They will inherit 3 times. They will inherit from their parents. They will inherit from their spouse or partner's parents. And then if they lose a spouse, they will also inherit from their spouse. And many women are in charge of finances for not only themselves and others at important times in their life. And that is why they control such a large piece of this. In addition to this, working women and business owners. So they're not only getting money, inheriting it the old-fashioned way, they are charting their own path. And that is so exciting because they have annual earned income of over $13 trillion today, which is increasing in the next 5 years to 18 trillion. So we see business ownership for women growing substantially from just 29% a few years ago to over 38% today. Women need to build their teams around them so that they have those that embody the similar values to them. And in philanthropy, there are multiple ways to participate. So there's obviously checkbook philanthropists, but our women are so well known for being both hearts and hands in. And so many of the women that I know are always at the ready to be helpful. We're also going to talk about power, which is women often give in groups as part of giving circles, which is in one of my very favorites. One of the ones I'm most passionate about is the American Red Cross Tiffany Circle, which is why my good friend Celena Roldan has joined me here today. And so actually what you're looking at is 3 women who are actually part of the Tiffany Circle: Susan, Celena, and myself. Women have played a key role for so many years in philanthropy, but it's not just the hearts in, hands-on that our founder, Clara Barton, shared with us. Boy, she was after contributions. And I promised everyone I would show you my mug, which is my Clara Barton mug, which says, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it." So go, Clara. And she is an inspiration to us as our founder. She raised significant funds. And women, interestingly, dominate also all the social networks with the exception of Twitter. So think about that in terms of power. There is also substantial interest and recognition in the power of women in philanthropy. They are covered extensively by a number of studies, which many of us look to, and they continue to share many common themes. First of all, the gender difference in giving is real. Single women donate more than single men. Women spend more time on due diligence before making decisions. Women expect a higher level of communication and place importance on the impact of their gift. And interestingly, women care about collaboration. They care about teamwork, shared successes. They don't necessarily have to have their name on the building, but we're increasingly beginning to see that with some of the moonshot philanthropy. But I think it only increases the level of power for women. Women also care so much about causes, and empathy drives a lot of their decisions. So society, culture, community, education, and the environment are very important to our women.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because you touched on something so important.
Yes.
You touched on the women using their hearts and hands too. So we are particularly powerful because when there is a cause that we care about in any of those areas, we don't just give them money.
That's
we give
right.
them a hand up. We share our network of friends. We want everybody to know about that cause too.
Right. And what women also do is they engage their families and they model this behavior with their children and their grandchildren. So that's a very important thing.
Doesn't want her kids to inherit good values.
Mm-hmm. You know, working in the financial world, clients frequently talk about transitioning wealth. And one of the most important things to them is, I don't just want to transfer money. We can do that easily with a variety of different structures. They want to make sure that values are in place and that their family continues to model the types of behaviors, empathy, and care for others and they're most concerned about passing those things on. So I think truly women also bring to this whole environment a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, social equity, collaboration and partnership, and then impact and values-based investing and giving. So those are some of the key points about women, money, and power creating impact, and why this is absolutely the world of women for philanthropy.
Well, and I love that you include philanthropy advising in your work with your clients. So could you tell us a little bit about how you came to appreciate philanthropy?
Sure, I would love to. The earliest memory that I have of family philanthropy was when I attended a luncheon for my grandfather, who was the United Way's Man of the Year up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm from. And I had an opportunity to get an out from kindergarten, and we all drove to Grand Rapids. And I remember asking my mom, why are we here? And she said, well, everyone has been very pleased and wants to thank Grandpa for the work that he has done for others. And that's what we do as a family. So in addition to that, I was modeled, so much of my work after my grandfather. My parents modeled philanthropy in terms of not only giving, but spending time. My mother did a variety of different activities, contributing to the community, working with groups as, Center for Counseling. We did JCs. I think I just never knew anything different other than to find ways to contribute. And my husband and I have worked very hard to try to instill similar values in our own children. And so pleased truly that they, in addition to those that they choose as partners, are also very philanthropically inclined.
3 generations right there, 3 generations of giving. And I do believe that the Red Cross is a 2-generation commitment in your family already.
It's already a 3 because my mother joined me as a member of the Tiffany Circle. And then my sister said, hey, wait a minute, I'd like to be involved. And her daughter did the same.
Oh,
so we have my mother, Beth, who is listening in today, sister Lisa, and then my niece Paige. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
And Celena, could you tell us your philanthropic journey, please?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Susan and Laura. And it's wonderful to be here with 2 fellow Tiffany Circle members and also just 2 incredible champions of the American Red Cross. I'm so grateful to both of you. Well, I think similar to you, started with my parents. Both my parents are originally from New York City. My father is a Vietnam veteran. Had spent 13 months on the front lines and came back and has often told my family and me how much he wanted to live his life in honor of those who didn't make it back home. And he was the first employee, came to Chicago to start a nonprofit organization developing affordable housing, which has now become one of the largest Latino nonprofit organizations in the Midwest. They've developed over 4,000 units of affordable housing across Chicago. And he was the first Puerto Rican MacArthur Genius Grant winner. Remember when he was given that honor when I was younger, and I went to ribbon cuttings for, and groundbreakings for new developments, and was able to see families, children walking into their new homes for the very first time. My mother also, I am a social worker by training and by heart, and I got that from my mother, who is also a social worker. And I am proud to say that my mother quickly became, as soon after I was joined the American Red Cross, a Red Cross disaster mental health worker. When I called her one day from the airport during the time of Hurricane Maria, when United had one of the first flights of Puerto Rican evacuees coming off of the island, and we saw we had a greater need for Spanish-speaking mental health workers, I made the call to my mother, and she answered the call, as thankfully most of our mothers do when we call and we say we need help. And she quickly became trained as a disaster mental health worker and has continued her work with the Red Cross. So for us, it is a family experience, just as you both have described as well.
And I saw your son volunteering just last week on behalf of the Red Cross.
That is right. That is right. Joseph is also doing his part to support the work of the American Red Cross as well.
So could we talk a little bit more about the Tiffany Circle? Who would like to define it for our audience?
Laura, I'll let you start.
Okay, I will. So the Tiffany Circle, I'm going to say nationally, has over 1,200 members. And this group of 1,200 members in 2021, just these 1,200, has donated over $19 million. And they also, we've begun to track influence giving, which is not only my money, but my friend's money, is an additional $16 million. And this is just absolutely extraordinary.
That's the power of hearts and hands right there.
It is. It absolutely is. And the Tiffany Circle is focused on raising money during what we call blue sky periods, where there's not a huge disaster and the funds are not dedicated to a specific situation, but they're dedicated to planning and strategy and building out the infrastructure. And I think it's fascinating. I'll let Celena say a little bit about it as well. But I think it was about 12 years ago, they turned to the women and said, we get all this money when a disaster occurs, but if we don't have plans in place, if we can't pay our people, if we can't have staff at the ready, it's worthless because we can't deploy it effectively. So again, they turned to the women, just like Clara a number of years ago, and created this giving circle called the Tiffany Circle. Celena, you want to say a little more about it?
Sure. So as a fellow member as well, no, I think absolutely. And Laura, thank you so much for your leadership at the national level for our Tiffany Circle as well. And we have this powerful circle of, I think, almost 90 members or more for the Chicagoland area, which is also one of the founding circles for the Tiffany Circle as well. And this incredible giving circle of women leaders, as I like to think of them. And you're exactly right, Laura, when we think about blue sky and gray sky work, and where the generosity and leadership of women is needed more than ever at the American Red Cross, when we think of increasing disasters as well. So as Laura described blue sky, and most people tend to think of the Red Cross around hurricanes, tornado, when it's like large scale disasters and they're on the news and that's when they're focused. And it's really all this other work too. I know that every day I almost feel like I'm learning something new about what the American Red Cross does. So across our 5 lines of service, of training services, our services to armed forces, our international work, which is so critical, particularly at this moment in time in this world, our disaster relief, and also our biomedical services or blood donation. So it's that work that every 2 seconds, someone in this country needs blood. And so we're counting on the generosity of individuals every single day to be able to donate. Our services to armed forces right now, our American Red Cross response and support that is happening in Eastern Europe is the largest response that we've had since 9/11 in our support of deployed military. And so that is that work that is happening where we're counting on those resources. And again, increasing disasters. Climate change is a humanitarian crisis, and there have been more level 4 hurricanes in the past 5 years, more than there has been in the past 50 years. So when you think of just increasing large scale disasters that have incredible impact on communities, many that have already had disasters before and have lived through them, all of that work needs to be supported by the generosity of women like that are part of the Tiffany Circle. But I will also say, Tiffany Circle, as Susan mentioned, Tiffany Circle members are also installing smoke alarms, and they're helping support our home fire response. Home fires are the #1 disaster that the American Red Cross responds to. 7 people die in home fires every single day in this country. And so I have been there with Tiffany Circle members, standing on ladders, someone's holding a drill, making homes safer. I have been with Tiffany Circle members who host blood drives, and they themselves are in the beds, rolling up sleeves, donating blood for people that need it. So it's an honor for me to be part of this circle that just contributes so significantly in so many ways to the mission of the American Red Cross.
What I love about the Tiffany Circle is that when you are invited, you're welcome to join, and it's a commitment of $10,000 a year donation. There's no other expectation that you do anything else. You just get to start to be educated about what's going on and listen for ways that you might want to give back, make an impact. And you're pretty soon you're thinking about, well, who are my friends that could do this with me too? So it really is, it is one of the loveliest philanthropic invitations I've received.
Well, there's such an important social component to this as well, because it's a ready-made network of like-minded women. And it's just extraordinary. I have to tell you, some of my dearest friends, even on this call, and others in the Tiffany Circle throughout the country have become very, very dear friends, where we bond together over mission and spend time together. So there's the social piece, the friends, and really a personal network.
So there are women who might want to might feel called to find other ways to give too. And I know that your philanthropic advising is a good way for them to think about themselves. So could you speak a little bit to how you do that work?
Well, something that I would say when others think about, I'd like to get involved in philanthropy, I don't really know what to do. First thing you want to do is just think about what really moves you, what fills your heart, what's important to you, where do you want to see change, where do you want to see something happen, and then decide what you will share. And that's where an advisory person can be helpful to you in terms of understanding, once you have enough, it's enough. And then what are your world of possibilities? What can you do beyond that? So again, surround yourself with those that can help you explore ideas. And I would honestly say, be prepared to be delighted with your new friendships. There is joy in partnering with other women and in sitting down with others. I have one in particular that says, I want to make an impact. How much can I give? And we can figure out those numbers and then really celebrate what that impact is going to look like going forward.
I think that's a really important point. So you mentioned Mackenzie Scott and Melinda Gates. How do you define impact? How do you help your clients find the cause that will resonate in their hearts and create the greatest impact?
I think a lot of it just becomes a conversation and an education, to me, in terms of what helps them and what moves them. At William Blair in particular, we do have an extraordinary focus on community engagement. It is #1 part of our culture. We care about making an impact. And our chairman has actually been quoted as saying, investing in our communities yields the greatest return. And that's kind of a cute one because we're a financial company. So we talk to them as part of the advisory conversation, and we encourage strategic thinking around kind of the amount that you want to do, the types of assets that you would give, assets in kind, cash, time, whatever that would be, and then specific vehicles to make that the most productive it could be. We have some clients that focus on what we call disruptive giving. which means donating to something of a size that makes a huge impact. And it could be a dance program, it could be a food bank, it could be a book bank, it could be education, it could be community gardening. There's so many different things. And I feel so well supported by William Blair for this work that I do. And it's important as part of who we are as a company.
So Better has done, through our Make It Better Foundation, a lot of networking and thinking deeply about impact philanthropy. And we believe that venture philanthropists have 5 criteria that they really care most about: efficiency, effectiveness, excellence, leadership, and scalability. And that scalability speaks to, okay, if you're going to give them a big gift, are they actually ready to receive it?
Right.
Do you have any other criteria that you think about?
I think women do an extraordinary job in terms of due diligence. They look for ways to be engaged. They want to say, I'm going to make a gift, but how can I follow that up? How can I make sure it's being implemented the way that I would like it to? And I think they follow their results well. Celena, anything else?
No, I completely agree, Laura. I completely agree.
And Celena, when you're speaking about the Red Cross in general, what characteristics do you emphasize in order to convince people that it's a good investment?
Well, I'm very fortunate. The American Red Cross is very fortunate that I have to say the philanthropic spirit of Chicago and Illinois is so strong. I vividly remember in 2017 where we had Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria, the wildfires, and people in Chicago, they continued to give. They continued, like when people see it's not happening in my backyard, I'm not going to necessarily give. People continue to give, and it was just so inspiring to just know when people are suffering, no matter what they may be, and families and children who are in need of help, and they do. I will say that I think that they see directly that their dollars go to directly helping support people during times of emergencies and disasters. And the American Red Cross is able to show and say that 90 cents of every dollar goes toward our humanitarian services mission. So individuals really know that there is direct impact and that their dollars are going to be put to good use when we're able to show that to them. And be able to see that impact of their giving, and that we also honor donor intent. And we do have individuals who often just donate and support general disaster support, as you're saying, or blue sky fundraising, as Laura described. But other individuals, want to give directly to an event or an activity or a disaster that's happened. And we also are able to show how we honor donor intent and make that donation go directly toward those specific disasters.
Well, and that's global in nature as well. Because the Tiffany Circle, interestingly, is not just United States, it's international in focus. And we have international societies in Canada, in the United Kingdom, Australia, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. And, we've had the opportunity through a number of different summits that we participate in, both domestically and internationally. So we've met a number of these women, and they're doing the same thing across the globe.
Yeah. The Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University has done multiple studies on women's giving, and they have developed the research and the data that really backs up what Laura has been saying, which is that women are better givers and they're bigger givers. Mm-hmm. To your point, Celena, about Chicago, the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy was commissioned by the Chicago Community Trust to do a study about how to make Chicago more philanthropic. And this was in honor of a CCT anniversary. And they came back and said, Chicago's the most philanthropic city in the country, 50% higher than every other city in the country. So there is real power to being a female philanthropist in Chicago. And that's who you get to work with, Laura.
It is. It's honestly, it's a privilege and it's an honor to begin shepherding clients from, and so many I've had for so many, for many, many years that I know, move through the whole continuum of giving, where they begin giving smaller amounts when they're earlier in their careers and they're giving time, and then they've got a little more and they can do a little more. And the continuum of women's giving at the American Red Cross is extraordinary. It starts with Celena. I think it's our early, like at $100, and it goes all the way up to our Chairman's Council at the national level, which is over $1 million in giving. I'm just pleased to say I think we have 7 members of the Tiffany Circle that are at that level, that are part of that Chairman's Council. And I think what's exciting is there's a deck. I mean, there's a deck of additional women that are looking to also achieve that level. But we don't want to, under any circumstances, diminish any gift, because every gift is so important. And if it's only your time you can give, that's how you start. Mm-hmm. And if it's only $100 that you can give, it's an impact. I mean, it helps with blood drives. It helps with swimming lessons. It helps with learning how to use, automatic defibrillators. The training. I mean, I think my first experience with the Red Cross was swimming lessons. And then I got my little card and I thought, wow, this is so cool. Then I became a first aider as part of Girl Scouts. And, I think the Red Cross has touched me in so many ways that I never gathered together. And when we talk about, the power of women, I was invited to the Tiffany Circle by a friend who said, hey, you're pretty philanthropic. You really need to see what this mission is all about. I'd like to share this with you. And next thing I knew, I was in. And then it was really...
And it was your mom, and then it was your sister.
And it was my mom. But I think the most incredible part of this was when I went to a summit, and then all of a sudden, I had the view of the entire mission, and I was all in. And sitting with my friend and our founder, one of our founders, Melanie Sablehouse, is up on the stage holding court saying, hey, how many of you women out here who are part of the Tiffany Circle are going to join me and say that you're going to stay engaged for 10 years? You don't have to ask your husband. You don't have to ask your partner. You don't have to ask anybody. Just raise your hand. So she's one of the most extraordinary fundraisers that I've ever encountered. And you know what? I stood up. I went to the stage. I said, I'm all in.
Okay, I like that. That's the power of a woman owning her power. You don't need anybody's permission to do this.
That's right.
And didn't you start the talk this way? We all need to lean in and own our power even more so. What's your advice about how to do that?
I think you want to find something that is near and dear to you, something where you're going to have an impact. And you know what? You're going to find the resources to support that, because that's how women roll.
And
I see a need and I go for it.
But what about not just for philanthropy, but for owning their investments, for owning their goals in life and using money to help them get there? Do you have any advice in that regard?
Yes. Find a team. Find people that can be helpful to you. I have a really wonderful woman that I work with who says, this is not my area of expertise at all, but what I am good at doing is resourcing well. So I'm going to find the right people, put them in place, and then divide, delegate, and supervise. And I think that's what it is. There are always those that are available to you that can help and teach, and you want to find those that will help you grow and will help you expand as an individual and as a financial management person. And that is critically important. Also, if it's not your thing, resource well.
Yeah. I can imagine that working with a team at William Blair who believes in investing in their communities can be particularly effective in this city too. And I know that William Blair and the Tiffany Circle has locations across the country.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I think the conversation always starts with, and I think this is where women are different in our work as well. We start out with a conversation of, what is it that you need to have done? And let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, what drives you, what's important to you. And we go from there. And we try to solve for all of the important things in your life. And money's a tool. Money's just one of the tools. And if someone sits down with you and says, okay, how much money and what's your risk? Well, they don't understand you. You have to find a team that can understand how it's used as a tool in your life and what possibilities it creates for you once you've got enough. I think there was some research that I was reading recently was, I looked in my closet and I had plenty of black shoes. Now what? I have enough. So that opens up the world of possibilities to what else you can do to have an impact.
And own your power.
Yes.
Wonderful. Celena, is there anything that you would like to say to all women or to our audience?
I have to say, I've been with the American Red Cross for 6 years now, and I've spent my career, so over 25 years, in the nonprofit sector. And this it's really hard work, and it's incredibly rewarding and meaningful work. And I have to say, I have been blessed and fortunate to just have incredible women supporting me in the different roles that I've had. But particularly when I came to the American Red Cross, the Tiffany Circle was there immediately. And I was like, this group of women, I consider myself a strong Puerto Rican woman. And this group of women, I was like, these women are tough. They're pretty amazing. And also, I want to be a part of this. And I have to say, during some of those hardest moments, to be supported, I think, again, I just want to go back to just how the Tiffany Circle supports other women. I had a moment when I was deployed, and I deployed 6 times with the American Red Cross, and I was deployed to the Oregon wildfires 2 years ago. And what until you've actually seen a wildfire happen, very different than the hurricane responses, everything is gone, just completely leveled. It almost looks like a bomb went off. And I was at one of the shelter locations, and there was a Tiffany Circle call going on that day. So I actually went, and it was during the pandemic. So I was kind of fully masked. And I remember going out into the parking lot of this school to talk to my steering committee members from being deployed. And it filled me up so much to see them and to see their faces, and for them to be looking for me and saying, Celena, you've got this. And are you okay? And how's the team? And what can we do to help? And I've never forgotten that. And I've had so many other examples of that. And I remember just kind of hanging up the call and just knowing I'm here because they're allowing me to be here, and we're doing this work because they're supporting us in doing this work. And so I think, anyone that would want to be involved in the American Red Cross, there is a place for you to be involved in supporting our work and our mission. And it really is life-changing.
Well, I see 2 more volunteers actually in the chat right now. So
good.
And Celena, I am imagining that your passion and your example, as you are, on that phone call from a very difficult place in a pandemic, wildfire, what do you do? And I think you are also still having to pay attention to what's happening with your staff back home. So you were inspiring the Tiffany Circle leaders on that call at the same time. That's a truly virtuous circle.
Thank you, Susan. I'm very fortunate to have each other.
Amen. There is under such amazing leadership. Thanks for all you do, Celena Roldan, in the chat. I do feel like we have touched on everything that felt important. But if there's anything else you would like to tell us, Laura, I would love to hear it.
No, I would just, I just want to recognize my fellow Tiffany Circle sisters who are all so engaged in all of their communities and doing their work. And also my other women colleagues at William Blair who are extraordinary, doing similar kinds of work where it's not a competitive thing, it's a collegial thing. And I find that in our business, that's maybe less common, but it's very productive to work in. And I think it creates a kind of environment where we reinforce each other in terms of the, philanthropic work that we also do as individuals.
So big call out to Laura Coy.
Yes.
Speaking of community outreach and a most amazing collaborator.
Yes.
And collaboration is the way to move this world forward faster. So how wonderful that William Blair understands that.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Red Cross has been fostering that for about 150 years now, I think.
Right. Since the very beginning with Clara.
I know we haven't talked about Clara. And so the world, it's common knowledge that Clara Barton founded the Red Cross, but I don't think that everybody knows that this goes all the way back to the American Civil War. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about Clara and why you have her mug in front of you?
Well, I got my Clara mug just recently when I was in Washington, D.C. for a national Tiffany Circle, a national committee. And we get together. There are 30 women that essentially oversee this group of 1,200 donors. And we work all throughout the United States. But Clara was just an absolute powerhouse. It was after the Civil War that she had been in Geneva, Switzerland, and had witnessed the Red Cross at work there and came back with these ideas and said, we need one of these here. So I'm a huge Clara fan, but Celena, couple of other ideas and a little more detail.
No, I think our founder, and I always remind people, some fair amount of people would know that we consider her the angel, and her name was the angel of the battlefield. Yes. So, so to know that this is where she started, just trying to, as a nurse as well, to be able to, and healthcare worker, an immediate responder to those, who are in pain and suffering. And the mission of the American Red Cross is to alleviate human suffering. Mm-hmm. And I think as women, as mothers as well, that is something that we're driven to do. When we see suffering, when we see people in need of help, and I think all of us get that inspiration from Clara as our founder that helps us lead this work.
Wonderful.
So there was a recent, what was it? The Gilded Age, the new Netflix series had Clara. I was just watching it. And it had Clara.
So great.
Clara loved everyone. She didn't care where your money came from. She didn't care anything about anything except for this is the mission and we need to take care of those that are in need. So it was very clever. Very clever of them to use Clara.
Mm-hmm. And I love the history of the Red Cross, that it was founded by U.S. charter. It might be one of the only nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And that where you just were last week, that location is historic at every level.
It's stunning. And the room in which we met was called the Tiffany Circle Hall. And it has floor-to-ceiling windows designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany, mm-hmm. which were funded by the women of the South and the women of the North in reconciliation after the Civil War. And they came together, donated this money. They're absolutely spectacular. And it's such an honor to sit there in that building, in that room, doing the work of the Red Cross. It's stunning. It's very touching.
And in terms of the important work that's being done by the Red Cross right now, it's important for people to realize that the Red Cross is helping you, refugees and wounded in Ukraine and in Russia. Like, we still are apolitical. We just respond to need.
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership, Laura. You sort of glossed over the fact that you are one of the national leaders of the Tiffany Circle now. And that's been a lot of hard work that has gotten you to that point. And the Chicago chapter has grown dramatically because of your efforts. And thank you, Celena, for always being an inspiring leader. It is such our honor and privilege to be able to support the great work that you're doing.
Well,
And
thank you
Susan,
so much.
and Susan, to you for your extraordinary leadership in philanthropy in all different areas. And you are not only there, you not only bring your purse, you bring your heart. And you bring your
Thank
heart.
you.
And I'm so grateful.
And more importantly, Better brings an awesome platform to amplify other people's philanthropy too. And we are really honored, Laura, that you chose to work with us.
It's a privilege.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll watch for the video and the articles.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.